Thank you all very much for attending. I'm Abigail Dunn. I'm the Head of Research here at Family Fund, and we're here to share with you a research project that we've recently completed, along with some kind of ideas about where to go next from it. As a bit of background, Family Fund celebrated 50 years of supporting families in 2023, and as part of our celebrations, we chose to do a research project looking at kind of day-to-day experiences for families raising disabled or seriously ill children. We wanted to look at how families enjoy family time together and what kind of are the barriers and what are the challenges to doing that. It's all been brought together as this project, Window to Our World, which we're going to share with you today. So Mark Bevan, my colleague, is going to tell you more about Window to Our World, followed by Andy Harper, who is going to be telling us a little bit about how we can all work together to make change for families on the back of this project. Just before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping. Obviously, we're really open and welcome questions, but if you could kindly put them in the Q&A box at the top. So if you look at it, there's a chat box and there's a Q&A box. So if you can have a look at the Q&A box to put all your questions in, and we will address those at the end of the presentation, just all in one place. Obviously, it's a bit tricky on this kind of sort of structure to have kind of back and forth conversation. But if there is anything that you'd like to kind of get in touch with us directly about, or you want to have a further conversation with, please just email us at partnerships@familyfund.org.uk, and we will all get back to you as soon as we possibly can. With that in mind, I'm going to pass you over to Mark, who's going to take us through the kind of the research and the findings.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us this afternoon for this presentation, which is about our project Window to Our World. As part of Family Fund's 50th anniversary last year, families were invited to share photos of family moments as part of family breaks and day trips or using play equipment. This project wouldn't have been possible without the 18 families who helped us. And just to be clear, not all the children or young people in this project identified as disabled, and instead identified as neurodivergent or neurodiverse. To make sure that family voice was at the heart of this project, we chose to use a participative, family-led approach called photovoice. The stories and images we are sharing with you today are those that the families who took part wanted to share, and some of the key themes of the things they told us was important. The photo project was an opportunity for families to talk about the things that really mattered to them, to give the stories behind the photos. Families shared with us some of the benefits of being able to spend quality time together as a family, and how that was enabled and supported by access to family breaks or play and leisure equipment. Families also shared with us some of the challenges they faced to being able to spend quality time together as a family, together with some of the things they feel could be changed to be more inclusive. Underpinning these challenges is affordable access to play or leisure equipment or family breaks, as this was something emphasised by Bonnie's mum, Lauren, that although Bonnie loves being outside, having something they can afford where Bonnie can play safely in their own back garden was very difficult without Family Fund support. As Lauren told us, as a low-income special educational needs and disability family, it's incredibly difficult to both meet your child's need and actually to be able to afford it at the same time. So this was amazing for us. Further, families also stressed the additional costs that families face for days out, which all add up. Some of this was because of extra charges for additional people who need to join the family on a day out. It could be because of a disability premium, where play equipment comes at a premium price. And sometimes this was because a child may get overwhelmed and need to leave suddenly. A further challenge is being able to access suitable equipment for play and leisure, or suitable opportunities for days out and short breaks. This is Ollie, and his mum Lily told us that Ollie loves a playground as much as the next child, but often there is nothing in the way of inclusive or adapted play equipment he can use. And especially now that he's getting older, when bucket swings are too small. Lily said, in play parks, there's not always disabled swings. I feel in my head there should be disabled facilities in every single park in the UK because there's disabled children everywhere. For some children, being able to access a quiet space or a safe space if they became overwhelmed whilst out and about in their community was important, or accessing quiet sessions at venues that are at times that work for them. For parent carers, a huge challenge was actually getting the information they needed to go on a day out. Parent carers spoke of the need to plan ahead and to share that planning with their young child or young person, but also frustration of being able to find out what facilities are available when planning a fun family event, especially when they needed quiet rooms or changing places toilets. Staff training at venues and visitor destinations can make all the difference to a day out, but families reported very mixed experiences. Staff who are disability confident can make for memorable and positive experiences, but sometimes families had very different experiences at the same venue, depending on which member of staff was on duty. One family talked about their experience with staff whilst on a family break at a holiday park. The holiday park had organised an activity for children at a climbing wall. There was an awards ceremony that evening for the children who had taken part. At the ceremony, their child was really excited about the prospect of getting an award and was enthusiastically clapping all the other children as they got called up. It gradually dawned on his parents that he was never going to get an award. So his mum quietly had a word with the staff and said, "Look, my child did his very best there. Can you give him an award to recognise the effort he put in?" The point his parents wanted to make was that these little things have a big impact on families. Better awareness, better training could make places and events more inclusive and not geared towards ableism. One of the most difficult experiences for anyone to face is being harassed or discriminated against just because of who you are. And as we know for the families we support, this begins early in the life of a disabled or seriously ill child. As Zach's mum told us, "Speaking from my experience, I don't think people are ready to accept somebody as different. It feels like you need to fit into this society, but then it is not possible for them to fit in. And why should they?" For the majority of families we spoke to, this was overwhelmingly the worst thing for them about being out and about. Families told stories of name calling, public shaming, staring, even slurs being directed towards them. Not all of this was necessarily overt, but often passive. One example being the only child in a street not invited to a children's birthday party. But families and children notice, and it still hurts. Many families felt stuck between calling people out for their hostility or ignoring the negativity directed towards them. What compounds this is the impact of intersectionality. One family discussed trying to build the resilience of their child being out in the world in relation to neurodivergence and also their ethnicity. Another family talked about behaviours of people around them, not only in relation to their child, but also their own sexual identity as parent carers. They likened their experience to being in a pressure cooker. On this slide, we see an image of a sunflower lanyard, which is a way to discreetly make others aware that a little help or consideration would be appreciated. While some families feel the sunflower lanyard scheme is a positive in helping to deflect negative behaviour towards them, there were mixed experiences. One family felt like it was drawing attention to themselves and their child. Another family told us that bizarrely, having a sunflower lanyard actually attracted negative comment towards them. In spite of the impact of this wider context and the challenges that families face, Families also described quality family moments together. And what really came out was that whilst family time, play and physical activity mattered to any and every child, families were keen to emphasise the additional and wider benefits that were specific for their disabled, seriously ill or neurodivergent children and young people, and that these benefits went over and above those experienced by non-disabled or seriously ill children. This is Zach and his family having a lovely time at the seaside, but his mum Alessia tells us it's not always easy for him or the family to take moments like this. But when things fall into place, these moments are to be really treasured. As Alessia said, usually we go places and we don't seem to enjoy them most of the time because we are too stressed to. So this time was more about us as a family enjoying something that we really love to do. Families also really wanted to emphasise why having access to play equipment was so important. It was not just about play and fun, important though this is. This is Charlie, exercising using a bar attached to a door frame. For Charlie, play and exercise equipment like this bar were not just beneficial for physical exercise. For children with sensory processing disorders, being able to self-regulate is crucial for wider well-being. His mum, Holly, also emphasised how this helped her by enabling a less stressful environment around their home. She said, "He really enjoys it. He knows that it makes him feel better. And now that we've had it a bit of time, he knows that when he feels like that, he can get the ball out because it helps him. Other days, it'll be the bar." But just as much as play equipment helped to provide a safer home environment, there's also a wider story here in terms of safe play. Here's a photo of Ophelia jumping up and down on a trampoline. But her mum explained why the trampoline was so important for Ophelia. She told us, Ophelia suffers from a rare brain disorder, as well as multiple other disabilities, which mean that for her own safety, she cannot go out and play with friends. Therefore, having a safe garden with toys for her to play on is very important. So for the people who can safely share their lives with Ophelia, her family, this trampoline provides a key part of Ophelia's play world. As well as safe play, families also stressed greater opportunities for bonding. There's something about this photograph and what's happening here that this particular family really wanted to share. This is Max and Katie playing together on a trampoline. Max is neurodivergent and largely non-verbal. Katie had always been keenly aware that she didn't have the same relationship with Max that she saw her friends have with their brothers and sisters. Their mum, Carla, stressed that something as simple as being able to spend time together on this trampoline had enabled their relationship as brother and sister to grow and flourish in a way that they had never previously thought possible. As her mum explained, Katie has always struggled with the fact that Max didn't play or interact with her like all her friends' younger siblings. The trampoline started bonding them together. This aspect of the value and benefit of play equipment and opportunities for shared play was echoed by another family. The opportunities to bond and interact with wider family, as this quote illustrates. Wyatt's mum said, "My nephew and Wyatt are the same age. They get to play together in the garden, and he's a different child then to what we see when we take him anywhere else. He interacts with them and he tries to speak with them." I love this photograph, which shows Stanley and his dad together in a go-kart. I love the way that Stanley's dad is looking straight into the camera. It suggests there's something else going on. And indeed, there is a bigger point to this photograph that Stanley's mum wanted to make. She said that their interaction as a family has tended to be between herself and Stanley. So this holiday and this photo is a big deal. I'll come back to Stanley later on in the presentation. Just to pick up on that theme of being able to flourish, other families also were keen to emphasise the way that play equipment could help build confidence and independence. Florence's dad told us that Florence always wants to know what's going on. He said that Florence has FOMO, a fear of missing out, and the mobility rider they've been able to buy was a way for Florence to join in. She loves to open and close doors, which means she can help in the home with the washing, as well as being out and about. More than that, though, as you can see from this quote, it's also about building independence. Florence's dad said it gives her more independence. It gives her a head start as to what a wheelchair would be like, with the wheels and being able to move around independently. It's a good stepping stone. On this slide, we can see Daniel performing a somersault, one of the skills he has developed and honed through his passion for parkour, and which he's been able to practice on using this vault in his garden. And whilst being able to further this interest has helped Daniel to develop and grow in terms of his physicality and confidence, his mum also noted that they used some of the funding for a family break to introduce Daniel to handling money. She said, just last year he got a bank card as well, trying to let him have that independence, but also test that independence and how he copes. Part of building confidence and independence as Daniel moves through his teenage years towards transitioning to adulthood. So what is it that families want us to do? When we bring all these things that families told us together, what are the key messages? Recognition of the wider benefits of play equipment, that yes, access to affordable equipment or time away is of itself important, but the families reported much wider benefits. Wider awareness of the importance of inclusive play options in local communities. Better core training for staff in the leisure sector about children and young people with disabilities and serious illnesses. The main thing, though, comes down to the general public. Wider awareness and recognition by the general public of the challenges facing families raising disabled and seriously ill children and young people. Greater compassion in their interactions with families. And whilst this issue is well known and understood, it does beg the question of how can behaviour change be brought about at a scale required to make a meaningful impact upon families' lives. Wyatt's mum, Kirsty, really summarised these points and how not having these things in place continues to impact on their day-to-day experiences. She said people should be more accommodating to people with disabilities, extra needs, and then we would all feel a lot better about going out and giving people a chance to have a life. I wish people would see that they need to have these things and the chance to have a life. A moment ago, I mentioned Stanley. Stanley's family had never had the confidence to even attempt to go away as a family, even for one night. However, they decided to take the plunge when they saw that they could apply for a family break, for a family fund. So they went to Butlins and Skegness. While they were there, they said they saw a side to Stanley they had never seen before, or that they thought was even possible. It gave them the confidence as a family to save up and go away again. As his dad explained, without family fund, we probably wouldn't be going on holiday next year. We never would have thought that Stanley would have coped. And we've seen now, Stanley is more resilient than we thought. And that's the point I would really like to emphasise by way of conclusion, that access to affordable play or leisure equipment or a family break enables new possibilities, both for parent carers and their children. Thank you. The final part of the presentation will explore where we go from here towards taking forward the results of the project and how we can work together to make change. And the final part of the presentation will also cover the wider work of Family Fund as well, which will be presented by Andy Harper, our Director of Partnerships, Public Affairs and Family Outcomes. But before we move on, I would just like to pause at this point and just ask if there are any questions just about the research project itself. And if you do have any questions, please pop them into the Q&A. Thank you. I'll just take a moment just in case anybody's typing away and putting things into the Q&A. Okay, if people don't have any questions they'd like to ask, or if you think of something you'd like to ask later, there'll be opportunities at the end of the presentation as well. I'll now hand over to Andy Harper, who's going to talk about some of the wider issues.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Mark. Yeah, so to kick off with, how can we work together to make change? I think that goes beyond this piece of research, but just picking up with this piece of research first of all, clearly Mark's explained the feedback and the general thrust of what families were sort of saying to us in terms of things that they would like to be different. And that is an area we then want to explore. What are the levers? How can we work with partners? Are there ways of actually addressing those issues that the families have voiced? So yeah, really interested if people have picked up bits within that you feel actually there's scope for us to work together on these issues, to hear from you about that. But in terms of working together more broadly, one second. Mark, are you able to move the slide forward? It's not.
Bear with me.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So I think first of all, in terms of the research, please feel free to share and use the findings. We'd very much encourage that. Refer back to this research if you need to communicate the reality of life for families raising a disabled or seriously ill child or young person. The findings are available on our website, and we're very happy for those to be used as a source for your wider work and influencing activity. Please do reference the work where you use it in that way. But clearly, when we conduct research, ultimately we're thinking about using our research to make a difference for families, to improve the lives of the families that we are working with. So always on the lookout as to how we use that research then to affect change. So please do use the research in that way. Mark, if we could have the next slide, please. In terms of building the evidence, we at Family Fund, we have a direct relationship with thousands of families raising disabled and seriously ill children. We have a large bank of families who we can contact for research. Equally, we've got huge reach in terms of our digital presence and our social media channels where we can engage with families. So we can use that to engage with families for research. Many families actively want to share their experience or influence policy and practice that affect families like theirs. So we have got a bank of families who are happy to work with us in that way. And we're able to facilitate building evidence and making change in partnership. So please, if you can see opportunities where actually working with us and us being able to bring families together to facilitate sessions that can lead to positive change, we would love to hear from you around that, just where there might be opportunities. Mark, if you could have the next slide, thanks. And then developing a network. We've got a team of dedicated partnership managers, and we're always on the lookout for building our network, and that's for a variety of different reasons. It can be to support our research and influencing activity. It can be because we're looking for joint solutions, potentially programs or projects that we can deliver with other organisations. It can be that we can work with partners to help raise awareness of our support and vice versa. So where there are organisations that are providing information and support for families, we want to be able to refer families to that support. So there's a range of ways that we work with our partnership network. And of course, as well as building our network, we want to be able to help organisations in building their networks where that is going to lead to positive change for families. So we're happy to introduce people, play a facilitator role, because ultimately it's about us working together and making the most of the network of organisations who want to make a difference if we are to achieve that. Mark, the next slide, please. And then what does Family Fund offer? You may well already be very familiar with Family Fund, but I just wanted to touch on a slide in terms of the support we provide for those who might not be familiar. The core of what we do is that we provide grant items for families with disabled children. We can consider any request relating to the needs of the disabled child, young person and their family. In some cases, for some programs, it's actually the needs of the carer. That's the key thing that we look at. And the types of grant items that we provide range from family breaks and day trips, computers, laptops, tablets, clothing, bedding, kitchen appliances and furniture, sensory toys, outdoor play equipment, specialist bikes and trikes, recreational items from games, consoles to sports equipment, and much more beyond that. The key thing is what is most needed by the family that's going to make a difference for them and their children, and address some of the extra costs that families raising disabled children face. I think what's worth saying here is we have a range of programs. Those programs do vary by different nations. So please, if you're interested in the grant side of things, please do have a look on our website at the individual nations as to what programs are on offer and what funding is available and what can be supported. We also provide different forms of information and support and signpost families to other organisations who have relevant information and support. You can find out more about that on our website. Thanks, Mark. Get to the next. So that was a very quick run through things. I'd like to thank everybody for having dialed in today. Hopefully you've found that useful for you. Hopefully we've got across the message that we're all in this together in terms of trying to affect change for families. And if you feel there are ways that you could work with us in any way in terms of trying to make a difference for families, be that around research and influence, be that around the potential to work together on particular projects or what have you, please do get in touch. We'll be very happy to have follow-up conversations. And as Abby flagged at the beginning, if you could email us at our partnerships@familyfund.org.uk email address, that would be the best way to get in touch. Also, please look at our Family Fund website if you want to get more of a sense of our different grant programs and the support we provide, and information and support that we provide to families. It's all available on there. That was a quick run through things. I'll give another chance just in case anybody has got any further questions, either in relation to the research or in relation to the support that Family Fund provides or potential to work together. But if there aren't any, that will be fine. Just feel free to follow up by email if there are things you think it's worth following through with. So thank you, and we'll just give it a minute to see if there are any questions at all.